What did I do? There we go. Ah! What did I do? There we go. Ah! What did I do? There we go. Sorry, y'all. I didn't finish my lunch again. I did. I did take down Tuesday's reading. They told me to. For those of you that are not on my Discord server, I will share that they told me I shared something personal that I'm not allowed to share with the internet. And because Twitch is so public, they were like, you have to take that down. So I was like, I do apologize. It won't happen again. We're still learning. We're learning together. The tippy taps on the keyboard. I just had to tell my sister I would be back later. I cannot get that freaking Ariana Grande song out of my head. Why is everyone so in love with me? Eat your breakfast. I don't know who needs to hear that, but eat your breakfast. I'm almost done, guys, I promise. And next week I will have a better hold on my schedule. You know what's so good? Yellow peppers. Sorry, I didn't want to answer your chat with my mouth full of food. Today is a tarot day, so we're learning, tarot lesson day. So we're learning how to read the tarot cards. We started this whole series with the very first card being the Fool from the Major Arcana. And today we're going to be covering the Emperor, the Hierophant, and the Lovers. Also, don't know who needs to hear this, but make sure you're drinking your water today. All right, so we've been doing this deck and this deck to get a feel for the different types of images. So just bear with me while I find the cards that we're doing today. I feel like it's an ASMR day at this point. Well, there's the Lovers. There's the Emperor. There's the Hierophant. Oh, we got a double whammy. We also got this one coming out today. So some of y'all are feeling challenged. Some of y'all are feeling obstinate is literally what I just heard. No idea. I just work here. Some of y'all are feeling like you're building to something, but you're not succeeding in what you're building. Maybe if we have time after everything, maybe we'll do a little read on that energy specifically. Okay. I still really want a little tarot card standy thing. All right, now let's find them in this deck. I can already see the Emperor, so that's funny. All right. There's the Hierophant. Almost just bypassed it too. And there's the Lovers. That one was so much easier. I think Spirit is getting on me because I'm currently taming a light hangover, deaf staying hydrated. Hangovers, the only way to cure them is water. All right, are y'all ready to learn? What is that? Are y'all ready for this? Do. Always makes me think of the Bring It On movies. Okay. So, we are starting with the Emperor today because we left off. I wasn't able to do last Thursday's stream, so it was the Thursday before that. So it would have been the 12th of February. We left off talking about the Empress. So, really quick recap on the Empress energy. That's divine feminine, that's creativity, that's intuition, that's being in tune with your inner world. Okay? So, if the Empress is all about your feminine side, then the Emperor is going to be all about your what? Your masculine, of course. So as we've done in the other ones, I'm going to show you these two images. So this is from the very traditional, very old school. This was one of the first few tarot cards, like tarot decks, created. I believe the Thoth Tarot was like the first ever tarot deck, but don't quote that. I would actually have to go back to fact check that information. But this one was around almost as long, if not one of the originals. This is the traditional Raider White. There are a ton of different variations of this particular tarot deck as well at this point. You can get, like, I have 2 different kinds of it. I have 3 technically. I have this one, which is the traditional style, then the radiant one, and then I also have the after tarot, which is supposed to be depicted as like a couple seconds after these decks, which I think is really cool. And then we have the Light Seer's rendition of the Emperor. So the Light Seer's tarot is a little bit more modernized. It's a little bit more like up to date, if you will. Okay, so the images on this one are gonna reflect the images on the original tarot because they tend to do that. That's how you create a tarot deck, by the way. But they're gonna be a little bit different in the sense that, like, this one's very, like, if you look at it, this gives very old school energy, whereas this one gives more modernized, more up and coming, more within this decade or century even. But as I've asked y'all in the last times we've done the lessons, what do you see when you look at this card? What are the first few words that come to your consciousness when you see the Emperor? Whether it's this one or this one, I don't care. Just tell me the things that pull you in, the things that you pick up on, what you feel in the energy. There are no right or wrong answers. Power and stability. It's also giving wisdom. I like that. Red, composure. Okay. Anything else? Give me 5 more. 5 more things, everyone. Again, no right or wrong answer. Whatever comes to your consciousness. It's giving daddy energy. Okay, that's 1. We got ram, we got wealth, and we got spiritual wealth. And then we have money. We need 1 more, everybody. Just 1 more. Bell. Okay. I'm surprised none of y'all said Mars. Like, I don't know why that surprises me. I'm just a little surprised. So all of those would be correct. Because as I've said, and I'm going to say this in every single lesson with every single card, whatever comes to your mind, whatever pulls you in is important in a tarot reading. So for example, the person who sees bell energy, you might want to look up what a bell symbolizes in a tarot reading. And I think I gave y'all a guidebook a while ago that can actually give you a more breakdown of the signs and symbols and synchronicities for those of you that weren't in that particular stream. That is called The Ultimate Guide to Tarot by Liz Dean. I will write it in the chat. Excuse me. Oh my God. So, because I'm now curious what the bell symbolizes. I don't even know if there is a bell technically in this. Here we go, the symbols. So for those of you that said the ram head, which is in both of these images, particularly in this one, it's very dominant. This is echoing his number, which is like, I think 4. Yeah, number 4. 2 forward facing on the front of his horns and the 2 profile on the top corners. They are the symbol of the emperor sign Aries, which is ram energy. In Egyptian mythology, an aspect of the sun god Ra was depicted with the head of the ram. The god of creation, also known as the divine potter, who molded children for the clay of Nile. So this is actually, all right, let's go back to this one. This is actually an apple. It's a golden apple. So if I were reading a tarot spread and I was pulled to a bell energy, I don't know why I feel like I need to talk about this, but there's a reason. If I was pulled to that and it wasn't in any of my guidebooks, it didn't show me a definition anywhere, I would actually pull it up online. I would just simply type in bell tarot symbolism, and then you're going to find the answer that you're seeking, which is much more easy in modern day society as well, because we can easily find things. So the reason that I pick up on Mars energy is, one, the planet is literally back there, but two, Aries actually originates from Mars. So Aries' planet of origin is Mars, their home planet, etc. Mars energy to me is fiery, but also intense, because those of you that know an Aries probably know what I'm about to say. Aries can go from 0 to 100 with their anger. They can go from 0 to 100 with their impulses. They can go from 0 to 100 with their passion. And I feel like that usually comes off of this Emperor's energy to me, no matter when it lands in a spread. Unless in a client's reading, it's coming up as a little bit cold or detached or trying to reflect a different side of it. So the Emperor, in a traditional sense, now that we've kind of dived into the symbolisms and the meanings, and like trusting your intuition is the key factor here. As I've said in every other one of these little lessons, tarot isn't necessarily about knowing the traditional meanings. While that's important, okay, that is important, the actual aspect of reading tarot and reading the cards properly is basing it off of what you feel in your body. Throat chakra, truth. It's what you know to be true. I'm sorry, I cannot see, y'all. Oh my God. I need new glasses, so I try not to wear these very often because the prescription's too weak. But I cannot see without them, so we're here. Anyway, now that's what I was saying. Reading the tarot cards is about understanding the meanings that you're feeling intuitively and associating them back to the traditional meanings of the cards. So, like, example, if you're intuitively feeling something tied to spiritual wealth, I think one of you guys said, that, in my opinion, would correlate towards the aspects of the Emperor in a traditional sense that ties into finances and stability. Because the Emperor, in a more traditional sense of things, when it comes to the cards' meanings, it is about leadership. It's about masculine energy. It's about all of the traits that are associated with a masculine energy. And remember, gender is fluid here. This isn't about your gender. It's not some patriarchal construct. This is actually just about what the principle of masculine embodies. So typically, masculine and feminine energies have their own characteristics, which is a topic for another time. If you're interested in more of that, I would highly recommend doing your research into masculine energy and feminine energy and what they look like when they're healed and what they look like when they're out of balance. That all being said, masculine energy is tied to your finances, it's tied to your safety, it's tied to your sense of structure, your stability, your time management, those types of things. Authority, power, dominance, all associated with masculine energy. Whereas feminine energy is going to be more in tune with your creativity, your emotions, your intuition, your, divinity, if you will. So if you think about the spiritual wealth in a broader sense that someone had mentioned here, this is going to correlate back to the parts of the masculine energy that embody that. So this could be about material success. It could be about financial wealth. It could be actually spiritual wealth. It could be spirit trying to get your attention towards that part of you that needs a little bit of work, because sometimes that's what they're saying. This is why the other cards in a tarot reading are usually really important, because you can get the basis of what spirit's trying to tell you from the one card, but pulling a clarifying card or even two is going to give you more of a story versus a surface, if that makes sense. So in a traditional sense, as I've kind of touched on, but I'm going to read the keywords from this particular guidebook. We have leadership, masculine power, mature men, material success. I don't love that it says mature men, because to me, gender is a construct. Not even just in tarot, gender is a construct in general to me. But this is technically more associated with the masculine principle, which would make people still trapped in the patriarchy see that as like black and white. But I digress. So when you think about it in that scope, when you think about it in that way, I bet you that makes a lot of the key points that you guys saw make a little bit more sense. Am I right? Or am I right or am I wrong, y'all? What are you feeling? Because like one of you, I think, said red. So if you think about that in a more in-depth perspective, red is associated with your root chakra. What is your root chakra? It's your sense of safety. It's your finances. It's your structure. It's your security. What does that all tie back to? Masculine energy. The other thing I do like to mention, because different guidebooks have different definitions for different cards, right? So like the Emperor in a different guidebook might point out the fact, like, honestly, a good guidebook is going to point out the fact that this is also really deeply tied to a father figure. So when I see the Emperor in tarot, I don't necessarily take it, like if this came up in a client's reading, I don't necessarily take it as a divine masculine. 9 times out of 10, it's actually coming forward to show the client that they need to acknowledge something correlating to their father wound, or they themselves need to step more into this energy of the Emperor. And a common misconception in the beginning of reading tarot and learning how to read tarot, which I myself fell into, is associating the Emperor's energy with a masculine presence coming into or out of your life. It's your brain associating a narrative, typically again based off of patriarchal stuff, that doesn't necessarily actually tie into the message that you're receiving from spirit. This takes practice, this takes time, this takes not only learning the craft of tarot, but learning the craft of your own readings and your own spiritual team. So the more you learn how to connect, like ultimately, and I'm shocked I haven't said this yet, the more you learn to connect with your spiritual guides, the stronger your readings will become. Because if you are not connected to your own personal spiritual team, you're never going to be able to actually hear the messages that are coming through for you, whether that be intuitively through your body or through your third eye or whatever. So the more in touch you become with spirit, whether this is your personal team or teams that are connected to people you're reading for, etc., the closer you get, the more in-depth the reading is going to become. So in my lived experience, the more I started to connect with my own spiritual guides, the more I started to actually understand the messages from my personal team, and not even through tarot, I mean in my daily life. The more I started to hear them, the more I started to understand them, the more I started to feel them, the more clearly clients' spiritual guides would come through. Because if I didn't have a good connection with my own spiritual team, what chance in hell did I have to have a good connection with my client's spiritual team? Does that also make sense? One of my packages just got delivered, and I just know they left it in the stupid doorway because men. Anyway, that was not relevant. Yes, okay, cool. So while we're still on the topic of the Emperor, do we have any questions? No right or wrong ones either, by the way. This isn't like a high school class. You can ask me anything. You don't need to be embarrassed. Sometimes I just dance to myself because I hear music in my head. Call me crazy, I don't care. I'm gonna guess we have no questions. I hear music in my head all the time. Good, I'm not alone. I have fully accepted the fact that I am a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because I am neurospicy. And neurospicy people are more fun. All right, I'm going to assume we have no questions about the Emperor. So we're going to move into the next card unless anybody has a question. I'll leave the question open for 2 minutes, and then we will move on to the next card. Ask me anything. Oh my God. Why did I just start channeling question or testing? I'm just suggesting you and I might not be the best thing. Anyway, I will pull that up and put it in the chat for anyone who is wanting to hear it. I forgot what I was doing before I started the stream. That's funny. ADHD for life. I swear to God, my upstairs neighbors have an elephant for a child. Also, by no means do I think that means that the child is big. I'm saying that they walk heavy-footed. I know some of the tiniest people in the world who walk so loudly. What am I doing? Oh yeah, that song. Testing, I'm just suggesting you and I might not be the best thing. Excuse me. My gosh, I haven't heard this in a while. I feel like I listened to it a few months ago because I'm an emo kid at heart. Hello, welcome to the stream. It's the aura in every step they take. I feel like I'm missing something, but I agree with that statement usually. ADHD for life, literally. I honestly just raw dog my ADHD all of the time. I don't know how people in my life put up with me. I probably should put myself on medication, but I don't like medication, so that's the problem. Totally get that. My lightest child is a stomper. I swear to God, it's like it's embedded in their DNA. It's like I'm little, but I have to be loud. Anyway, all right, we're gonna move into the Hierophant now because I see that none of y'all had any questions, which I like. We might get through a little bit more than just 3 today. You've been on non-stimulant ADHD meds and it's working well so far. Well, good for you. I have been thinking about researching like natural options, but I just haven't gotten into that yet. If I run for president, will I have the absolute loyalty of FBI agents posing as tarot mediums? I have so many questions. The biggest first question is what? The second question is if you're better than Trump. I can't see why. The third question is I'm not American. That's more of a statement than a question. I am Canadian, so I don't even think we have an FBI. Trolls are like hilarious to me because I'm like, do you really have nothing better to do with your time than just be a troll? Anyway, moving on. We're gonna move into the Hierophant now, y'all. So, like we did with the Emperor, what do we all see? Give me some things that you noticed when you first look at these cards. Be so for real, they're sad, literally. Twitch is rampant with trolls and bots. That doesn't shock me. The thing is, trolls just bring me more engagement, so... We don't even have Mountie. Anyway. Moving on. Okay, so you see brightness and light. You see enlightenment. Joy. Give me 5 more, guys. What is the symbol on the shirt and on the hand? Calm. Okay. I don't actually know, my love. Serenity. Okay. We need 3 more, everybody. Open posture. I like that. 2 more. Colorful. Okay. 1 more. No right or wrong answer. We are learning how to read the tarot. And I need one more thing you see. Bless me. One more thing you see when you look at these cards. No right or wrong answers. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Alignment. Okay, like that. Thank you. So the Hierophant, first I want to talk about in a kind of broader sense. There are people who read the tarot and they see the major arcana as like a journey, right? I don't disagree with them. I think the journey's a little bit backwards with how the cards are laid out, but that's my personal opinion. But essentially, the journey starts from the Fool and it works its way all towards the end of the Fool, which would be the World. So that's the whole major arcana, right? Like you go through each one of those tarot cards. So when you go from the Emperor to the Hierophant, think about that in a more broad sense. The Hierophant is about alignment. It's about conformity. It's about tradition. It's about religious beliefs. It's about spiritual wisdom, institutions. And if you think about that in a broader sense, that's heavily connected to masculine energy. So it's almost like spirit in a sense, like the tarot cards, I should say, in a sense are saying, when you become balanced with your feminine and your masculine, because the Empress is before the Emperor, you can start to see the alignment and the non-alignment, the things that you conform to, the things that you don't, or the things that you need to, if that makes sense. So in a non-traditional sense, when I see the Hierophant, oftentimes I see this as a perspective of spirit saying, in order to upgrade, in order to get to your next stage, in order to get to where you want to go, you have to see things in a more spiritual path, in a more spiritual light, whatever that looks like for you. Because for some people, this is going to be connected to like religious background. So like maybe this is connected to church. Maybe this is connected to God. For others of you, this might be connected to your actual spiritual practices. This might be connected to witchcraft. It's going to be different for each individual person, which is why the tarot is so personalized. The war against heroism. Okay. Like again, like you're just giving me engagement. I know you think you're doing your big one with this, but it really doesn't bother me, babe. The Hierophant reminds me of being in tune with my intuition and emotions. Exactly. And that's because you're in alignment with the parts of you that are connected to your spiritual guides. So you can hear and you can see and you can feel those things because you have learned to master that part of yourself. And in order to master that part of yourself, you have to listen. You have to sit with it. You have to connect with it, right? One of the things that I almost always notice with this rendition of the Hierophant is the stairs in the background. If you've been following me for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about this before, but I see spiritual upgrades as either a ladder or a set of stairs. It's like you're here and you're moving up here. And in this particular imagery, it's just so beautifully woven that it's almost like spirit saying, you can sit in this bliss for a moment, but you're going forward, you're lifting upward, you're going to a new chapter. Especially because at the top there's this brightness, right? I don't know, I've never really resonated with the traditional style of this one. Like looking at this traditional one, it's hard to kind of connect with, which is why I like this version of it so much more. However, what we are going to talk about for a brief moment, which we did talk about in the lesson on the 12th of February. Once again, I had to skip last week, but one of the things that I do like to point out with the traditional version of this one, think about the High Priestess. Think about what the High Priestess looks like in the traditional sense and tell me that those two aren't aligned, because that is technically the counterpart in this version of tarot. Let's see if I can find it. Oh my god, all of a sudden my allergies are getting bad. I might have to get up and go get some allergy meds, y'all. Here it is. See? So, like, notice the similarities. There's pillars. There's cloaks. There's crowns. So this is about the more societal aspect. This is about the more traditional, the more things that are accepted, quote unquote, by society. Whereas this is more about your inner world. It's about your spirituality. It's about the parts of you that are connected to spirit and the divine and God and source, whatever it is that you believe in. So this one is more about churches and things like think about, when I see the Hierophant, I think about churches, I think about institutions, I think about things connected to that part of religion. Whereas when I see the High Priestess, I think about the inner world. I think about what my inner self is telling me, what my spiritual team is telling me. I'm sorry, babe, but the ads are how I make money. I love you for watching them. It's like a knowing. When I start learning tarot, I used to get them confused all the time. That makes sense. Honestly, a lot of people do in the beginning of their tarot journey, but one of the ways that you can, for those of you that might still be in that process where you're confusing the Hierophant and High Priestess, what you can think of is what I just described. So the Hierophant is more connected to institutionalized religion, whereas the High Priestess is connected to your inner self. If you have Amazon Prime, you can sub for free. Fun fact, apparently. You can also pay for a subscription, and it takes the ads away, by the way. So if you were to subscribe to my Twitch channel, you pay a little bit of a monthly. I don't know what the monthly is. I haven't seen it. But if you pay a monthly, you don't have ads during the thing. That's one of the perks with it. You also get special emotes. I have to do more with that part, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm sure it's similar with your Twitch or your Prime account. So, I want to kind of just talk about this a little bit further. The other thing that I want to point out when it comes to the differences between the two of these two cards, so the High Priestess and the Hierophant is more black and white thinking, and the High Priestess is more, there's a gray area to it. You know what I mean? Which, if you think about that, that makes a lot of sense with modernized religion and your inner knowing. Yeah. Do we have any questions so far? Excuse me. You can't really think of any questions at the moment? Okay, so should we move on to the Lovers, or do we want to talk about the Hierophant a little more? Are we feeling comfy with it? What we thinking? While I disassociate for 5 seconds, I have to reconnect to my body. Please hold. When I notice myself to start to disassociate, I like to stretch, because it reminds you that you're a physical body. There's like 12 of y'all in here and only 2 of you doing the chatting. The rest of you shy. Do we have a bunch of... Now there's 14 of y'all and only 2 of you are doing the chatting. Do we have a bunch of shy people in the stream today? It's a bunch of introverts. Probably, because like attracts like, and I'm very introverted, so... So once again, guys, are we comfy moving on to the lovers, or do we want to talk about the Hierophant a little bit more? Excuse me. It's 11:11 a.m., everyone. I'm going to leave it open for 2 more minutes to you guys to ask me questions about the Hierophant, and then we will move on to the lovers. I do also feel like I should remind y'all that each of the major arcana has a number. So like the Fool's number would be 0, which if you think about it in maturity, that's going to be like a younger energy or a younger number, right? And then the more you move through it, the more the number increases. As I said to you, just with that Hierophant moving into the, the Emperor moving into the Hierophant, there is an aspect of it where people see it as a journey. I think the journey is a little backwards, but that's just my opinion. Other people see it as like each step of the process to get to that completed cycle, which does make sense if you think about it in that sense. But yeah. Could be related with jobs that... Could you explain a little bit more with that question? Every tarot card can connect to career elements, if that's what you mean. So like in a traditional sense, the Hierophant would be telling you to look for a more traditional style job or a more spiritually aligned style job or something that ties into an institution. And if it is what that means. I think I'm understanding that you're asking if, like, they can be connected to, like, if the Hierophant and other cards can be connected to, like, your career or your jobs. Because, yes, most traditional style guidebooks, so, like, whatever guidebook you're using to read your tarot, there's tons of different ones out there. You have to find the one that you like best. But most of them have different meanings. So, like, example, the one that I gravitate towards the most is the Modern Witchcraft one, which we've talked about in every other stream we've done for tarot lessons. So it has an overall general meaning. Then it's going to have a love-related one, and it's going to have a home-related one, and then a career-related one. So it's going to give you a breakdown of 3 different things that are connected to human experiences, as well as, like, a generalized one. Can you clarify the black and white thinking with the Hierophant compared to the High Priestess? For sure. So in my personal opinion, and this one's just my opinion, the Hierophant is going to be more connected to societal aspects, right? So it's going to be more connected to the institutionalized religion. It's going to be connected to traditions. It's going to be connected to the elements of the world that are more black and white. Okay, so like think about like, I don't know, politics as an example. You're either one side or you're the other. I mean, there is a gray area there, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, a lot of people are either the conservative side or they're left-leaning. And there's not a lot of people that line up in the middle. Okay, so the Hierophant is more connected to, I see things in a very black and a very white scope. There's no in-between. There's no gray area. It's all or nothing. It's this or that. It's good or bad. It's evil and, good. And then the High Priestess is kind of like, let's challenge that. Because there's always that little gray area in the center. There's always that middle ground that might not align with our intellect or what we think is quote unquote right or wrong. There's a part in the center that your intuition is like, but also it could be this. Does that make sense? Does that help answer that? I guess I'm trying to say the High Priestess, because it's so connected to spirituality and the inner world, it can see things in a more gray area, whereas the Hierophant is very black and white. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. Practically Kate, that was your question. Okay, cool. So yeah, she kind of reads between the lines. Exactly. So she's going to be like example, let's say there's something that someone sees in a very black and white way. The High Priestess is going to come in and be like, hey, let's poke at that because there's actually another way to see it, but Your ego is not letting you recognize that. So she kind of pokes at that part of you that is in that black and white energy, being like, hey, but there's this middle part. Hey, but there's this gray area that you're not allowing yourself to see because your ego's too caught up in whatever society thinks is right or wrong. Because the Hierophant is very connected to societal norms. Like, I'm going to just repeat that a million times until I'm gray in the face. I think that's why I don't really connect with the Hierophant, because I am not a societal norm type of person. Even as a little girl, I saw the gray area in life. All right. Do we have any other further questions about the Hierophant or the Hierophant and High Priestess together, or are we ready to move on to the Lovers, which is our last card for the lesson today? Everybody else ready to move on? Ready, okay? All right. So, like we've done with the other two, what do y'all see? What is the energy? What do you feel? What is the first few things that come to your mind? There are no right or wrong answers here, as usual. Oh, hello. Connection, okay. That's a good one. Anyone else? Give me 8 things. We have 2 sides. What else we got? Again, no right or wrong, babies. Making a choice, okay. Yes, I mean, whatever comes to your mind, love. There's no right or wrong answer here. Give me 5 other things, everyone. It can be what you see. It can be what you feel. It can be what you hear. Self-love. I love that. 4 more, everybody. 4 more. Learning to love. Okay. 3 more. Just 3 more. Naked and exposed. Vulnerability. I'm really glad someone said that. I was going to have to bring it up if no one did. Just 2 more, everyone. Union and happiness. Love it. So all of those are the meanings of this card, because once again, as I've said, whatever comes to your consciousness is correct. One of the takeaways from the Lovers that I absolutely love, that I find a lot of people, it goes unnoticed a lot, but you can see it very clearly in this energy here. The Lovers actually symbolizes the union of opposites. So 2 people who are attracted to one another that are very different, whether that's on a surface level way, so they look different, or if it's on a more in-depth way where they have different religious backgrounds or different ideas. It's just oftentimes I find that kind of goes unnoticed in the tarot community. Especially because in this one, it's not as easy to depict that, right? Like, if you look at the traditional version of the lovers from the OG tarot deck, it's two basic people. They look very similar too. If you look at them, they're both white, they both have blonde hair. Um, and oftentimes, I think that that's where that conception gets misconstrued, because people look at this image, and a lot of these, like I've said in the beginning of this, a lot of tarot cards are based off of this original text, if you will. Okay. So because a lot of them are based off of this tarot deck in particular, a lot of them miss that meaning. Whereas I find this one did a really good job at bringing that together, because they chose an interracial couple. And what is more different than interracial energy? What is more opposite than two people who have completely different backgrounds when it comes to their ethnicity? That's also why I love this particular tarot deck, because I found that it took a lot of the mainstream energy from tarot and kind of made their own twist to it and brought out parts of it that are important, that go underneath the rug a lot. The traditional kind of reminds me of Adam and Eve. That's actually how this is originally supposed to be depicted, which I never understood that, because first of all, as a patron of Lilith, Adam and Eve's story never really resonated with me. Secondly, Adam and Eve's story is like deeply misogynistic and patriarchal, because why is it the woman's fault? Why is she the temptation? Anyway, do not get me started on that whole background. But that is technically what this was supposed to be about, because this is supposed to be like the god. This is technically Adam and Eve. There's like apples in the background. There's snakes in the background to symbolize temptation, which to me is too Catholic churchy. But that's, again, a topic for another day. So in a traditional sense, the lovers is about, like I said, the union of opposites. It's about partnership. It's about harmony and cooperation and connection and love. And one of you said self-love. I love that you said that, because I see the lovers that way. But a lot of people see the lovers as like a romantic connection or a connection between two people, which it absolutely can be. But if you don't have that self-love, if you don't have that foundation within yourself first, you're not going to attract the kind of partnership that comes off of this energy. So example, if you don't have the kind of self-love that's required to bring in a divine connection, because the lovers also symbolizes divine connection, you're going to bring in a more karmic, a more misaligned, something like this energy here, which I just realized this is why we've been going through these so fast. We haven't talked about the reversals. So I will backtrack and we will talk about the reversal to the Hierophant and the Emperor after I do this one. So the lovers, as I was saying, in my opinion, if you don't have that foundation of self-love, which can come from this card, then you're not going to attract the kind of partnership that you want. You're not going to attract someone who you align with your values, who sees the world the way that you do. You're going to attract the opposite of that. And the opposite of that is the lovers in the reverse position, which is about self-love, which is about disharmony. It's about imbalances. It's about misalignment of those values. And in my opinion, the reversal means you have either just had a relationship that's kind of uprooted you and forced you to kind of face the parts of you that don't love yourself, or you're on a journey of self-discovery and learning what self looks like on the inside. The other thing I forgot to mention, when the lover's in the upright position, it does symbolize choice occasionally. I don't really get that very often unless it comes out with like the Two of Swords or something else that implies making a decision. But sometimes it can symbolize a choice that needs to be made. And it's almost always, like I'd indicated, it's almost always an omen that this is a spiritual connection. When it's in the upright, when it's in the reversal, it's a huge indication that you're out of alignment and this is likely a karmic relationship. And that a self-love journey is more required at the point of wherever you're at when that comes out. That doesn't necessarily mean the relationship, like example, if you're in a relationship and you've been married for like 10 years and your relationship's quote unquote okay on the surface, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to walk away from the relationship. It just means that there are some disharmonies and some imbalances in that connection that need to be acknowledged. And a lot of it probably stems from a lack of self-love. In the age 2 embrace couple, I think I missed what we were talking about. So how do we feel about the lovers? Or the differences? Yeah. Because the union of opposites. It's really important. But I feel like a lot of people forget how important that part of it is. And I'm not talking about like opposites in the sense that like... So, how do I explain this? Opposites attract for a reason. You don't need to have hobbies, interests, or those types of things in common with your partner. So, like, example, let's say you like sci-fi, television, and movies. Let's say your partner likes comedies and sitcoms. That's fine. That's a union of opposites. What matters is that your values are in alignment. So the aligned values would be your political beliefs, how you see the world, your morals, your moral compass, if you will, how you interact with other people, what you see for a family, what you see for a future. When those are out of alignment, the connection's never going to work. And that's what this usually means in the reverse position. It's not saying those superficial interests are out of alignment. It's saying you and this person don't have a foundation to build off of because you have a different belief system. And if you have a different belief system with your partner, it's never going to fucking work. Like, point blank, period. I also don't know why I feel the need to mention this, but I want to remind y'all that when you are choosing your partner, like your forever person, when you are picking who you want to be with for the rest of your life, you need to remember that that's the person standing beside you during the most difficult parts of your life, whether that be childbirth for women or for men, whether that be adoption if you choose to go that route, whether that be the death of your parents, whether that be the loss of jobs. Like, they are next to you during all of those turmoils, all of those challenges. And if you're not picking the right partner, you are never going to feel safe in yourself. I don't know. I saw this post a while ago, and this was when I was still doing some like really big healing around past relationships and trauma in those. I saw this post a while ago that said, your future partner is who's next to you when your parents die. And that just kind of made me go, holy shit. Because you shouldn't have to face that alone, first of all. But if you're with the wrong partner, you're going to be facing it alone. And it's going to be worse because you're going to have a partner who isn't actually giving you what you need in that moment, which in my opinion would be worse than actually being alone during those challenges. So I don't know who needed to hear that, but somebody needed to hear that. All right. Are there any other questions, everyone? Or can we move on to talk about the reversal of the Emperor and the Hierophant that I forgot to mention? Okay, I'm going to give it one more minute. It's 11:29. We will give it until 11:30, and then we will talk about the Emperor in the reverse position. Because I forgot to talk about that, which I think is ironic, and we will see why I think it's ironic in a moment, which just immediately put another song in my head. Did I ever share? Testing, testing, I'm just suggesting. Yes. I just finished watching a TV show on Netflix called How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. And it took me fucking forever. It took me until the last episode to realize that one of the women, they did like a, past, like seeing in the past. One of the women, the child that played her, the teenager that played her, looks so much like a young Alanis Morissette. It was freaking me out because I couldn't figure out who she looked like. I was like, why do I know you? And then I was like, oh my God, because you look like Alanis Morissette. Anyway, I digress. It was a good show for those of you that are looking for something mindless to watch. All right. So we're going to move on to the Emperor in the reverse position because, again, I forgot to talk about it. So this one, if he shows up like this is a red flag. This is a bad omen. This is run. So for some of you, this can show up to manifest as like parts of you that are in this energy, which is what you need to kind of learn how to understand. That's, like I said, when we were talking about the Emperor, a common misconception about it is that it's somebody else's energy, when 9 times out of 10, woman, man, non-binary, doesn't matter. 9 times out of 10, it's either trying to reflect a part of you that's out of alignment or a part of your own masculine energy, or it is trying to show you something about a father figure. Yes, definitely out of alignment energy when it comes to the reversal of the Emperor. Crazy. I was thinking about this music video today where she has her sweater on backwards. It's such a classic. So the Emperor in the reverse position, this is about dominance. This is about someone who uses dominance as a means to hide their control issues. This is someone who is kind of in a domination energy. They have excessive control. They lack discipline. They're inflexible. They're incapable of moving forward. Like, just picture someone not willing to budge, someone not willing to move out of themselves, someone not willing to do any of the work. When I see this energy, this is not only a massive red flag and an omen that you either need to run from someone or work on your own inner world. It's also a really big indication of toxic masculinity, misogyny, patriarchy, etc. When this comes up in the reverse position, there is work that needs to be done, whether that's you or someone connected to you. So example, I don't really advise reading on other people, but it is a normal thing that a lot of people do when it comes to tarot. If you start seeing someone new, you meet someone on the apps or you meet someone organically and you decide you want to find out more about them. So you go towards the tarot cards, you pull the tarot cards, this comes out. Run. First of all. Secondly, this would be spirit saying, hey, this person's actually really out of alignment with their masculine, but they're pretending like they're not. Because oftentimes the Emperor reversed is also an omen of someone who is using all of that energy we just talked about as a means to hide more toxic issues. Excuse me. So this could also indicate that you yourself are in conflict with established order, whether that means you're out of alignment with your job or your family or your religion or your ethnic group. It is just usually a really big indication of someone who is overbearing, out of balance, self-righteous. And then it can also sometimes show up to say that like there is something about cowardly energy, indecisiveness, a lack of confidence, a loss of power or status, and feeling basically like weak or vulnerable. Exactly. Emotional unavailability is almost always with this energy in the reversed. If he comes out with the King of Swords in the reversed, fucking run. Or do your inner work. Like, I'm sure y'all have heard me say this before, but real doms don't try to control you. If somebody shows up as an Emperor reversed, or if you're showing up as an Emperor reversed, you are pretending to be a dominant when in reality, you're just a control freak. I know that sucks. Do we have any further questions on the Emperor reversed? I also think this is why I said it's ironic that I forgot to mention this energy in the reversal. It's like he doesn't want to be known. This is also usually a really big omen of narcissistic energy. Sometimes it's childhood, like sometimes it's just wounding that people are not acknowledging. It's immaturity from their youth that they're not facing that puts them into this avoidance or emotional unavailability that puts them in a more narcissistic kind of energy. Other times this is a really big, if it comes out with the King of Swords reverse, that's a huge omen that someone's a narcissist, in my opinion. But I personally think the word narcissist is thrown around a lot in the internet community. And those of you that haven't actually experienced a narcissist, some of you have just experienced people that are manipulative and toxic. And when you've experienced a real narcissist, trust me when I say you know, because it traumatizes you for the rest of your fucking life. I have PTSD. It's never going to go away. like ever. And I dated that man for the majority of my 20s. Oh, to go back in time and kick little Avery's ass. I don't know, this is like a kind of off-topic thing, but I've noticed a lot of people on the internet will throw the word narcissist around towards people that are just wounded and not doing their inner healing, and the people that are throwing the word around are just hurt and their ego is bruised, which is valid, but a true narcissist, you almost don't survive. And I would not wish that on my worst enemy. I don't even have a worst enemy, but you know what I'm saying. It's just the saying. So, if we are going to move on to the Hierophant in the reverse, what would y'all take? I'm going to ask a different question this time. If you saw this in a tarot spread and you knew the upright meaning of it, how would you depict the Hierophant in the reverse position? What would you think Spirit was trying to tell you if you saw this come through? Anyone? Anyone want to dabble at what they think the Hierophant reversed would be? Now I have Alanis Morissette stuck in my head. That's okay. Might sneeze. Bless me. Breaking away from tradition. Love it. And do we have any other ones? If you see the Hierophant reverse, what do you see? Thank you. Someone too stuck? Okay. Rigid. Give me like 3 more. Overbearing authority. Ooh, I like that one. Having difficulty connecting with intuition. Okay. And 1 more. Sorry, y'all. I definitely need to take an allergy med. Out of alignment. Okay, love it. I love it. First of all, I agree with all of you. I think that the Hierophant in the reverse would definitely align with all of the energy that you're talking about. But what's super duper weird is that's actually not what it symbolizes reversed. And that has thrown me off since the start of my tarot reading journey. Because I, much like each and every one of you, see it exactly the same way. I see it as feeling stuck. I see it as not connected. I see it as overbearing authority and out of alignment. But in a traditional sense, this is actually about the opposite. It is about challenging the status quo. It's about poking that black and white energy. It's about seeing that gray area. It's about freedom from challenges or restrictions. It's about your personal belief system and where that stems from. So one of the, I'm just going to use this as an example. This has actually never happened in a client's reading, but I'm going to use it as an example. If this came through for a client, something I might feel is that that person is starting to poke at the authority and how they were raised and the environment that they were raised in. So they might be looking at their religious background. Example, if they grew up in a really religious home, they might be starting to be like, whoa, this actually isn't true. This actually is full of shit. I associate this energy with that part of your healing journey. And I don't even know if it would be classified as a healing journey or just that part of becoming an adult where you start to challenge and poke at the foundation that your parents taught you. So it's when you start to think for yourself versus thinking for the family around you. It's about starting to change that narrative and recognizing that just because your parents acted or did or said certain things doesn't necessarily mean that that resonates with who you are and who you're becoming. I almost always associate this in the reversal with that part of growing up, because that's really about maturing. It's like usually that happens in your 20s. It happens when you get away from your parents, you start to gain more freedom. Maybe you're living on your own or you're in university and you start to learn what it's like to be an adult in the real world. It's that part that I see with this energy here. Yeah, exactly. It's about challenging a narrative. For some, this can actually mean like actually poking at authority. It can mean challenging the things that don't resonate with them. For example, what's going on in the United States with ICE and everything. Someone with this energy in the reverse might actually be poking at that. They might be speaking up about it. They might be acknowledging the shitty aspects of it. And maybe their family is very conservative. Maybe their family were Trump supporters. And they're just like, no, you know what? This isn't right. That is what this card in the reversal entails. I forget that just because it's reversed doesn't mean it can't be positive. Exactly. Some tarot cards in the reverse position actually have a more positive meaning than negative. Others are going to be a little bit more negative, like the Emperor, for example. In the reverse, that's not great. In the upright, that's okay energy. The Hierophant is not necessarily the same as that. And I personally think the Hierophant, if you think about it in a broader scope, you think about what the Hierophant means in the upright position, it's all about following that line. It's all about society. It's about institutions and traditional energy. So in the reversal, it's going to be about poking at those things, because just because something is quote unquote right doesn't mean it actually is. You know what I mean? Just because society deems something quote unquote right doesn't mean it actually is correct. And do we have any questions? Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with we don't have any further questions. The background music reminds you of Minecraft music, and I can't help but think I should revisit the soundtrack. Do it up. The background music is an evil eye frequency. I never got into Minecraft. I don't know. I just couldn't. It just wasn't for me. Maybe it's because you were a kid when it was popular. That's fair. I think it was a little after my generation. I don't really know. I'm going to assume we have no questions. Okay, well, I don't know what to do now. We still have 10 minutes left, y'all. What do we want to talk about? What do we want to do? Can you speak a little about synchronicities and coincidences? I have kind of a hot take. Are you sure you want to hear it? Are you sure you want to hear it? It's kind of a hot take. Are you still curious on the bottom of the deck energy? I think you pointed it out. I do read bottom of the deck energy, but I see it as like more of like an overall vibe. I don't really go in depth with it. It's more like a vibe of what the spread might have to do with, or the person's state, like their inner state. You get tons of random ones, but I can't tell if it's just your ADHD. So it's your ADHD. I don't really believe in synchronicities and signs. I know that's a really hot take as a spiritual person on the internet. I know that's a really hot take as a spiritual leader on the internet. But I think part of the reason that I have the platform that I do is to remind y'all to see things from a more grounded and realistic perspective. Coincidences are real. Okay, like statistically speaking, coincidences happen. When something happens more than 3 times, that's when I start to pay a little bit more closer attention to it. So like example, my protection jars, for whatever reason, break in my bathroom every single fucking time. And that's been happening since I moved in. And it's after the 3rd one, I was like, well, this is weird. After the 5th one, I was like, this is super weird. After the 10th one, I'm like, this is a pattern now. So like, what is that about? The other thing that I like to remind people when it comes to signs and synchronicities, your brain is literally wired, psychologically speaking, to scan for patterns. So because, especially if you have trauma, so because you're starting to see something consistently doesn't necessarily mean it means anything. It's just that your brain is starting to recognize a pattern and associating that pattern with something. This is why I tell everyone not to chase angel numbers, not to pay attention to license plates, not to pay attention to people's birthday. None of that is real. That is not how spirit talks to you. But I get it. I've fallen into that cycle myself. It happens in the very beginning of our spiritual journey, especially if you are neurospicy. But all of that is bullshit. All of that is internet bullshit. All of that is spiritual TikTok trying to put you deeper into psychoses. When spirit truly wants your attention, they're going to get it. And they're not going to do it with random synchronistic numbers. I try not to focus on them. I just see them as reminders to keep pushing. Exactly. So like if I'm in a challenging spot and I see an angel number, I might see that as my team being like, hey, keep pushing, keep moving forward. Or if I'm doing a tarot reading and I see an angel number and I had just said something to a client, that's confirmation. But those are the only two ways I'll look at them. It's very rare for an angel number to catch me off guard. Same. In the beginning of my journey, though, an angel number could have caught me off guard within 5 seconds. But now that I'm here and I'm more grounded and I see things more practically, I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, synchronicities are not that deep. When something is truly coming from spirit, and I've said this on TikTok before, when something is truly coming from spirit, the divine, God, whatever it is that you believe in, it's almost like time freezes. It's almost like everything around you kind of slows down and it feels like you're in a movie. That's when it's from source. Other times, it's not that deep. A lot of the time, it's actually negative energy or darker energy, whatever you want to call it. It's like the darker aspect, the shadow side, if you will, trying to pull you back into that pattern. And that's not someone doing those things. It's just the energy of the world. No, mine are more like, I need to get a PAP, and then I get a call from the doctor. Well, you probably should get a PAP anyway, especially if it's been a minute since your last one, but that's just like self-care. If you take that as a sign, baby, take it as a sign, but like, those are just coincidences in my opinion. Again, like, to me, coincidences are real because statistically speaking, that's a real thing, okay? So if something happened, like if that happened to you more than 3 times, then that's probably coming from spirit. But anything less, it's probably just a coincidence. It's a whole body feeling. Yeah, that too. Like you'll get full body chills. Like for me, it's like time freezes, but like everybody's different. Some people get full body chills, they get goosebumps, they see things, whatever. You know when it's from source and you don't second guess it. That's also how you know when it's coming from your team versus a shadow part of you or energy. Don't even get me started on shadow people. Those aren't real. I hate the internet so much. A lot of people on Spiritual Talk are so out of touch with fucking reality. It's insane. And then I see these people with like huge platforms and I'm like, how do you have 1 million followers, but you don't even know what reality looks like? And in my opinion, those are also the ones that are chronically online. And if you are chronically online, you lose touch with reality. There is just no ifs, ands, or buts about it, okay? Feeding their egos, exactly. And that's how their egos are getting fed. So this is the other thing that a lot of them don't recognize is their ego is being fed by followers and engagement and clout, and they're not registering that that's false validation because they're not actually healing. They're not actually doing the internal work because when you're chronically online, when do you have time to do any of the internal work? And I know some of these people are going to be calling me bitter and envious, but I do not want your life, babe. I do not want it. Like, not even a fucking little bit. I like where I am. I like the little contentment that I have. I like the life that I live. I like living in reality. It is a really sad cycle that people fall into, and it's really hard to see it, and it's really hard to see their comment section being bombarded with people that are stuck in that same cycle, and those tarot people or those witches or those spiritual people are just validating those people in their comment section, and then people wonder why they're stuck in Delulu or spiritual psychoses. Well, because you're looking up to somebody who is stuck in spiritual psychoses, babe. Like, if you're looking up to someone and you're idolizing them and you're believing that what they're saying is truth, slaves to the views and engagement, exactly. And exactly, they're feeding their ego. Honestly, I wouldn't say by posting the readings. I would say it's more from the engagement they get from those readings. I've also noticed from my own journey of changing my style of readings, my readings that I do, where I don't do these often because I fucking hate them, but every once in a blue moon, someone's energy is really strong because they want to tell someone else something. Sometimes I think that that's a spirit that's crossed over. Other times it is a genuine energy that's trying to communicate with someone else. But those readings where I'm like, so-and-so wants to communicate with you, they get more engagement, they go viral, whereas the ones that are about healing and about internal shit don't actually do well. And that is a testament to how much of society would rather stay stagnant and stuck in cycles than actually do their inner work. The comment section is disheartening. Like, wow, you guys must be hurt. Literally. It breaks my heart. Do we have any other questions? We got 5 minutes left, everyone. Right. The hard truths don't do well because they're just not there yet. 100%. Some of them never will get there, unfortunately. Some people, a part of their path in life is to stay stuck in that cycle, which is devastating, but it's also just reality. Exactly. It's the algorithm too. That's why I hate TikTok, honestly. Hate's a really strong word. I really dislike it. I really just don't enjoy it. But the unfortunate reality is I built my platform there because at one point I was in that ego-based energy. At one point I was one of those readers that was getting my ego validated through comments and through engagement. And then one day I went, this is not real life. Which is also how I think you can tell authentic psychics versus clout-based psychics, if you know what I mean by that. Authentic psychics are going to give you the hard truths. They're not going to sugarcoat it, but they're going to give you the hard truth in a more gentle way. They're going to say, hey, this is not going to happen because you're not doing the work that needs to happen. They're also going to show you truth, and they're also going to evolve with you. So authentic psychics, and maybe y'all need to hear this. Maybe you're watching some tarot readers that aren't authentic, or maybe you're questioning ones that are. But authentic psychics are also going to grow, and you're going to visibly see that. If you look at me, for example, you can see the growth within me from when I started my tarot journey to where I am now. And if a reader is not growing, they're not evolving, they're not healing. But also that journey for you brought you to your authenticity. Exactly. Because I honestly think a lot of them, I firmly believe we all are gifted. I firmly believe every single person on this planet has spiritual gifts and abilities. It's just a matter of tapping into them. It's a matter of actually learning to understand them and learning to heal yourself in order to get there. So I think a lot of these ego-based readers over there had that same opportunity that I had, where spirit was like, hey, this is your path to authenticity. Do you want it, or do you want to stay stuck in this ego validation loop? A lot of them are just stuck here. I've been watching since 2022. You've come so far. Oh, thank you. I honestly removed a lot of my videos recently because I don't know why. Spirit told me to. And when I was doing that, I was like, holy shit. I sometimes don't see it in myself, even though my life is in a completely different place than where it once was. And that in itself is growth. So, but oftentimes we as humans don't see our own growth. We don't see our own success until, I don't know, we're forced to see it or someone reflects it back to us. Right, it's not linear and always forward moving for some, but at least it's growth, even if life can be a little 2 steps forward and 1 step. I think that's just life forever, which is shitty, but it's also life. Life is not always rainbows and sunshines, unfortunately. Honestly, this past year has taught me so much about myself and about my life and about what life looks like. losing Marley was the hardest thing I have gone through at this point in my life. And it also reminded me that if you want to experience love in whatever form that love might come in, you have to also be willing to experience the darker side of that love. And sometimes that's death, which super duper sucks, but it's also a natural part of life. Anywho, guys, it's 12 o'clock, so we usually end off our streams at around this time of day. Do we have any further questions before I hop off? Well, I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. I will be back, crazy to say this out loud, on March 3rd at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be doing a collective reading. Yeah. And again, the more momentum we get over here, y'all, the more clout we get going over here, which is ironic because I just talked about how I don't want to do the whole clout thing anymore, but the more momentum we get going, the more streams we can start to add. I don't like saying this out loud because of everything we just talked about, but in order to be able to purchase a new PC, which will help me do more streams, I need more, stuff going on Twitch. So, I hope y'all are enjoying these. If we're not enjoying these, let me know right now and we can just stop doing them entirely. But I feel like they are doing kind of okay. A lot of you guys seem to enjoy them. This was a great stream. I'm glad. Little by little, yeah. I would like to have 4 to 5 streams per week, but I do not have the proper equipment for that yet. So the more we build, the closer we get to that, which I'm sure will happen in divine timing because that's life. Anyway, I love y'all. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy your weekend this weekend, and I will catch y'all next week.